Hey there viewers, my name is Torinski and welcome back to another DCSS Sunday. Today we're going to be jumping back into our run as Halfling, who, through a combination of some really bad luck as well as some less than optimal play, we'll say to be a little bit generous to myself, has had quite a run so far, but we're hoping that Hal will continue to pull through in the clutch here, and maybe, just maybe, we'll be able to swing in for the win today as Halfling. We jumped right into the run here. We can see that we're running a little low on consumables overall here. We do at least have one blink scroll again, so that's always a really good thing. At least one mistake that can be made, especially in the early part of the day here, where we're trying to get reacquainted with the run, see how it goes, but no heal wounds will be a bit rough. Hopefully we can pull through, and hello right away here to Brain and SaveVid. Hope you're both doing well today. Brain, I saw that you were doing some more of your Zig character this morning. Hope that went well. But as for what we'll be doing on Hal, we can go through the usual kind of reacquainting steps. With our skills here, it seems like, yeah, we left on fighting, dodging, and evocations. I do like evocations being on. I think that that'll fill up a nice hole in our run here. Unfortunately, as a halfling, we're not able to use javelins. On almost any other character that didn't use magic, I'd be training up throwing to use javelins in the late game. Not an option here, so we might have to resort to strong evocables, but also I definitely want to train some more invocations. Managed to find some time to look up, reacquaint myself with some of Uskaya's mechanics, and I think we definitely appreciate and benefit from slightly longer stun durations on this, as well as, oh gosh, turns out I forgot the other thing, but all that's important, oh, the grand finale is probably what I was thinking of, but all that is important is with a bit more invocations I should say, we should have a bit more sustainability in fights, maybe not be taking quite so much damage, especially in an extended fight with a lot of enemies. We'll have to see how it goes. But it went well. 10 full zigs complete. Wow, congrats. That's definitely in the zone where it's starting to get pretty tough, pretty stuffed with monsters. But give us a rundown on his escape buttons so that you don't forget them. Definitely don't have too many easy escape buttons. But I think the important thing to keep in mind with Hal here is that we've been managing for the last hour, maybe 2 hours of the run. We were down on no consumables, and we were still managing to pull through. The main thing was finally getting a half-decent weapon instead of relying on really low base damage ones. But in general, we do have a lot of teleport scrolls, so that's good to keep in mind. We also have been amassing a lot of our non-core consumables, I should say, because while all our heal wounds are gone, we haven't been touching our haste too much or our might and that kind of stuff, so that's definitely a pretty solid option as well. But maybe we'll try and pay attention to when we can use line pass, which is one of Uskaya's piety abilities, and using that we can maybe try and reevaluate our position a bit more, try and take fights one-on-one a bit more often here. But one of the first things I wanted to do, even before we decide on which branch we're going to be delving into next, where we're going to be dipping in our heads, I do want to do a quick search for armors. It's tough because this leather armor does have some really nice statistics on this side of things, and in fact even just the will might be necessary. So we'll do a couple of searches here in order to see if there's anything we want to reconfigure right at the beginning of our day. We look up will for the will resistance here, the willpower stacks. Do you have the ring that we could pick up? So that's pretty solid on its own as a replacement or even just a further augmentation, because I don't know if I want to be running Shield of the Gong. I believe we're a little short on cash right now regardless, quite a bit short on cash, so not quite a consideration at this point. But I'm going to do a quick rundown to Swamp 1 here. We're going to grab this Ring of Will Resistance just in case you want to head down into Elf, something like that a ways. And then we'll do a quick search of armor and it will pull up a whole lot of stuff here. But we'll do a quick skim through or a heavier piece of armor maybe that seems advantageous. I'm guessing this smoking helmet is in a vault thingy. Perfect. So no need to worry about that quite yet. Hey there, Spellsaber. How's it going? Hope your day has been fantastic so far. Nice to see you again. But alrighty. Unfortunately, not a whole lot that I love in terms of augmentations. You know, I guess even like a ring mail with a basic bonus on it, enchantment I should say, might do the trick. Could try and buy one, see how that goes. I think I might just take a peek. Anything that we could get that would improve our defenses a little bit, help us keep this buddy alive on the top end of things. I think we'll pay off in the long run at the very least. So let's spend some of our bit of cash there. See how it goes. Just been lurking in streams and playing through Shadow of the Tomb Raider. Nice. I've really enjoyed playing through the more recent edition of the Tomb Raider series. I find most of those games just pretty solid overall. Nothing too like out of the box or crazy out of left field that they've developed beyond or anything like that, but just solid, fun gameplay, good storylines, at least decent enough. But okie dokie. I'm gonna drop a Scroll of Torment for now. We're gonna pick up this armor and see how this goes. And Brain pointing out the artifact ring mails on there. There are a couple. The one with harm, I remember shunning the first time, and I think we'll keep that up because we are looking for defensive plays here, not quite more offensive power. And then we do have the one artifact ring mail that gives intelligence, but since we're not casting spells, besides protecting from potential stat deaths in our future, I don't know if there's a whole lot we're getting out of that. I'm hearing a crazy sound. I think it's coming from outside. Might have to check on that in a second here. Maybe one of the fans in my house goes rogue all the time. I think there's a faulty wiring issue with it. So maybe it's gone rogue here, but positive energy isn't quite the enchantment we wanted on this ring mail here. We have all of the RN we could possibly handle at the moment. We're not getting too much AC out of it anyway, so maybe we will have to retire on that idea for now. Just keep an eye out for the future. Dumb ourselves back down, but I don't hate it because at the end of the day, this is one of my favorite overall outfits that I've had on a character in this game. Very matching color scheme and everything. Looking good, Hal. And yeah, you just finished Rise of Tomb Raider yesterday and been enjoying Shadow so far. Something fun to play off stream and just enjoy. Good to hear it, yeah. So as for our game here, where do we wish to go today? Could start making our way into depths, facing some of the scarier, bigger monsters. I am probably thinking or partial towards Elf right now, though. We did pick up that extra ring of will resistance, so we can pretty much prevent any really bad wizard shenanigans from happening. And we have most of the resistances we want, so I think that that's a pretty solid branch to go. So if we want to even just head down to Orc 2 for now, see what it is. So what is this game? So yeah, it's an old school roguelike, so originally it came out just completely like ASCII characters, where it's all just the numbers and characters from your keyboard and that kind of stuff. I'm playing on a tileset version of it, so it's made it a little bit fancier, but while still being pretty true to its roots. The essential basis of the game here is that it's a turn-based roguelike, so as we're making our way through the dungeon here, we only have one life, and each time that we take an action, everything else acts reciprocally. Oh gosh, don't want to try and do that tense right now. I haven't warmed up my mouth yet, gotten used to talking. But everything else will take its move at the same time. So the main goal of the game is get through these various floors of the dungeon, get to the bottom, retrieve the Orb of Zot, and get back up to the top. In order to do so, we do have to delve into a few different branches, find some runes to unlock that final gate into the last section of the game. But that's the very top level general view of it. There are definitely a lot of mechanics to the game. It's a pretty complex game, which makes sense, I guess, seeing as how it's been in development for what year is it now? This version or iteration of the game has been in development for like 20 years, something like that. It originally came from an older game called Linley's Dungeon Crawl, and then it became an open source thing that was finally taken on by a group of developers. And so now it's just a free game. And in fact, if you want to check it out, in just a moment here, I can try and post a link. Even though, Brain, I do believe if you have a second, I think I made you VIP, so we could test to see if that allows you to get links. I think it does, but no worries or pressure whatsoever if you're not around. Don't mean to put anything on you here. Run back out, but I'm always happy to plug the game a little bit here, so I'm gonna do a quick Google search here and post this into the chat. If you want to check it out for yourself, there is the link to the game. It is free, so I'm always happy to send people that way. And yeah, it can either be played online through a web server, or I downloaded the game and I actually played offline. I like the interface it gives here, especially for stream. I think it's a bit easier for viewers to see what is going on in terms of inventory and stuff like that. But yeah, needless to say, I could probably go on and on about details and little bits in the game. I myself have been playing the game for, I think I've narrowed it down to probably 12 years. It's hard to think back to exactly when I first started, but it's been a continuing journey of just every few years, or even every couple months, depending on the timing, coming back to the game and returning to see what it's all about. You know, I spent all the time talking about this willpower ring, and then I never switched to it, and I just noticed now, I don't think there's anything around us that is too dangerous in that regard, at the very least, but definitely keep an eye out for any of those tricky wizards that might banish us into the abyss, because this character is not ready for that kind of nasty shenanigans. Alrighty. Yeah, no, so severe. I think the game is really neat, and not just because it holds such a soft spot in my heart. I'm curious if part of what made me really hooked on the game was one of those phases that I came about to playing it a decent amount, was when I was on an exchange program in Spain, and so I had a little netbook computer, really crappy, not really capable of doing too much, and this was one of the few games that I brought with me and would play late into the night after coming home from clubbing and things like that. So a whole lot of history for sure on my end. So I'm happy to be playing it these days on stream here, trying to give a little bit of love back to the game. Even though, like most roguelikes, and especially more classic styled roguelikes where difficulty reigns supreme, we definitely plan to be losing a decent amount here, but it all is part of the game and part of the fun adventure here. And as much as I say that, we're going to be doing our best. Hal is going to make it. I can feel it. He's been through enough suffering to really deserve it. We're in Spain. I was in Valladolid for that exchange, so that was like 2.5, 3 months. Did a little bit of traveling around, and then I've been to Spain a couple times since because I absolutely fell in love with the country. It helps that some of my siblings went on the same exchange, so I actually went to a different city than both of my sisters. Both of my little sisters went to Segovia on their trips, so that's another place where I've spent a decent amount of time as they showed me around the town and sights there. And nothing wrong with being attached to a game and having that sentimental value. Oh, definitely not. Makes the whole experience fonder even. Okay, this whole thing has gone out of control with this demonologist just consistently summoning more and more creatures in the backline. This is a good confirmation here, though, that we've reduced the chance of wizards banishing us down to just 1%. So that's pretty solid. I'm feeling pretty safe in that regard. But let's try and deal some crazy damage here, and then maybe immediately think about retreating before our magical sword accidentally makes us go into a fit of rage, and then we have some issues if we want to run away in the future. So a condenser vein is going to fill this whole spot with clouds. We can hope for pretty good variation. And I think fire is real solid for the stage we're at in the game here. Don't think anything in here should be resistant to fire innately at the very least. So that's solid. We're down to 70 health. This Orc High Priest might smite us, but they're at least almost dead. You can hurl damnation, but they can't call down. So this requires line of sight in order for them to get to us, I believe. Hopefully I'm not wrong about that. This is where we have to start making the important, crucial decisions in the game here, though. We don't want to find ourselves in an inescapable position. That's always the worst. In a turn-based game like this, it's all about taking your time, making sure you make the right moves. But okay, a bunch of buddies are going to die in the ensuing turn here just due to the clouds. Almost a little bit scary because it opens us up to all these buddies that we were just a little bit protected from at the very least. So, next move here, I think it's looking like we'll make it through the fight. Main issue is this air elemental is taking up some of the spots with raging winds. So they're protected from the raging firestorm that we've called down upon them through evocable items here. But it should be fine. Maybe we'll go for an ice blast right in the middle here. Get a bunch of hits at once with that. Oof. Taking damage again here. Yes, you're hasted and you're probably hitting pretty hard. Oh, you can hurl damnation. Oh no. That could actually just kill us. Probably should have been paying a little bit of attention to that. Oh me, oh my. But mid-fight here, we're actually going to take a small pause and reevaluate some of our skills. Sorry, I got a little bit distracted there, but thank you so much, Swarmer AB, for the follow as well. But on this side of things, we can take advantage again of the turn-based combat in order to step out of it and want this experience that we're about to gain to go into something good. So we're going to train invocations, get in a little bit tighter with our god Uskaya here, see some more benefits out that end of things. I don't even think I'm going to throw a cap on that. I think we're going to let it go pretty unchecked. Focused for a little bit, and then we'll lay off the gas and just keep it on in the background, I think. Sounds good to me. Okay, you need to go if I want to be completely ideal and safe about this whole thing. Maybe I need to go. Could always just lead. Hold on, Elf Army. I need to adjust my level ups. Exactly. You know those moments when you just need to hit pause on the life or death situation real quick, reassess your spot in your own life, you know, find some self-actualization in the midst of the chaos and panic. It's important for sure. So, we could do something as brash as blinking out, but I don't think it's necessary. I'm going to do one more check on the wizard here, this time taking a look at that health value, really thinking about we need to deal around 20 to just kill them outright here. Could throw a net in. Nets really mess up casters a lot of the time. This might be a wasted turn, but if it hits, it definitely does a lot of good work for us. It also causes them to get this slightly confused effect where we're dealing more damage and able to hit more easily. So I'm going to take this opportunity to get a couple hits in. There we go. We at least took them out. Though things are not quite safe yet. Let's do a check in on our resistances. We're taking half damage from fire at the very least. This fire elemental dealing 15, so that's 7 or 8. Not too bad. Your max damage... Oh, you haven't even revealed which spellbook you're casting out of. All of these books share the spell Blink, so if that's the only spell an enemy caster uses, we're not able to discern what exactly they're doing there. But, this buddy is summoned by you. This battle sphere is summoned by somebody out of sight. Don't love that. Let's take a step back here. We're still reducing our exposure to this side through the choke, but I wanted to be able to take out this elf mage in the back. That's good. Can maybe keep this fight going. I'm a wee bit scared once these buddies come through. Fire, we're fine with that. Magic Dart, Force Lance, not great, because if that buddy just keeps Force Lancing us and pushing us away, we're going to have a hard time closing to deal our damage. But honestly, most of these buddies shouldn't be too bad of a fight for us in particular here with our current resistances. So, oh, that changes things. I did not know there was a High Priest back here. Oh, that's not fun. Can call down damnation, can smite as well. That's gonna be a big yikes here. Let us reevaluate. This might just be an instant scroll blinking. As foolish as I've been here right up to bat, we might waste one of our few precious pieces of cargo. But I don't want to risk taking a turn in line of that. Damnation is completely unavoidable damage, so 3d15 is 15 to 45. Again, not super likely to hit max damage, but it could happen. I guess if we take one step away, I don't think we're out of sight. One step should do it, though. As long as we take this nice and slow, we should be okay. I believe that the damnation won't hit for max, and it doesn't. Very lucky. Do we just run here? As long as we're not spending too much time in these open areas. Oh, and we even got the stun from our god there right at the perfect time. So let's just keep moving slow but steady. And there we go. We didn't have to waste a blink scroll. Deciding to risk it just a little bit at the end there. It's an interesting probability to try and work out because the enemy AI has to pick from their selection of spells, and then they also, after picking that spell, have to hit max damage. So, I don't know how the numbers all work out, but I'll just take my blessings where they hit and be happy that we made it out of that in one piece. I'm immediately auto-exploring again, which is probably kind of stupid. But now that we've awoken the den there, we've shaken the hornet's nest, so to speak. It should mean that some of these elves are spread out throughout the level, which does make them slightly easier for us to deal with. If I run into just that Elven High Priest, I'm not quite as scared as when they're hidden behind a large formation of enemies that will take however many turns for us to get past and to that very dangerous target. There we go. There's that rage that we've been so lucky not to be inflicted by for quite a while here. Nice of it not to show up in the life or death situation earlier. Thank you very much. Our magical sword, the Zealot's Blade, once again. Oh wow. Seen the opposite side of the coin here for sure. So yeah, for those of you who haven't played the game, if you enter a Berserk Rage, when you come out of it, you have a chance to just completely pass out from the exhaustion. But on top of that, you are slowed down for quite a few turns. And that's a dangerous prospect in this game, because when you're slowed down, because everything happens in jeez, why do I keep trying to throw that word in? Reciprocate? Why is that word so hard for me today? Okay, knock that one off my vocab for the day, and I'll have to settle with that later, I guess. But anyway, because everything happens in response to us, it leaves us in a situation where we can take an action and all the enemies around us are doing two things at once, which becomes that much scarier for those damnation and whatnot. But let's try and switch over to our sling and just hit one of these buddies, call them out over. Their shout will call attention, but probably not all the way here. So we can kind of cheese the system at least a little bit with some of these rocks. Arrows from this buddy could hurt a bit, but I was hoping to see... We're wearing a Shield of Reflection, so that often, in my experience, results in long-ranged enemies just accidentally killing themselves on our shield. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be quite the case this time is what I was going to say, but scratch that. Turns out that we got exactly that kill. There we go, one of those buddies out and about, and then... Let's do this again, shall we? I really want just the Demonologist, or just the High Priest. If you could be so kind, I probably should have pulled the attention of that elf, but there we go. Always another opportunity here. Pull that buddy back a ways. Oh, did we lose them? Are we too sneaky for our own good here? There we go. Demonologist. As long as they're out of sight, I don't think they'll keep summoning demons. Oh gosh. Why is nobody following us? They're not falling for our silly tricks here. There we go. Thank you, pal. Scary stuff. So we have some buddies who can torment us from afar, which just means that we can have our health halved at any point in time, which is always a little bit frightening. Not quite as bad because of our resistance to negative energy. I think this brings it down like a 25% off of that 50% chunk your health, but still scary for sure. Not quite as good as being completely made out of stone like a gargoyle, or especially not as good as being undead, because fortunately undead species are completely resistant to the effects of that torment stuff. Okay, we managed to get our rage this time around. Fortunately, completely fine situationally. Didn't have more enemies pouring in after those to take advantage of our slowed, tired state, the fatigued presence that we have after the fact. Ooh, a ruined helm. Also, was that everyone? Everyone's gone now? Managed to either clear out the room, or at least we've released all of the members throughout the level. Still have a bit of exploring to do, so we'll probably find out. We can try out this ruined helmet though, see how it does. Still kind of on theme outfit wise, but Helmet of Sea Invisible isn't exceptionally useful. I guess it means that we don't have to carry around this ring. Doesn't look quite as slick as the red hood, but it at least is in the right color scheme. So we'll keep it around. We lose 1 point of AC, but we do have innate sea invisibility now. So that probably will pay off in the long run, especially since even in that very last encounter that we had against the priest and the elf warrior, elf knight, I forget all the different titles of these buddies. I just know how strong they are and the sound they make when I take their life. But the one buddy went invisible, so we definitely could have taken advantage of it there. But okie dokie. Can drop our Sea Invisible ring. I think we've at least proven a little bit to myself that we can probably handle elf here. It's a good place to start off the run at the very least. And wow, there we go. We also managed to find ourselves a heal wounds potion, which is not too bad. Shoring up another one of our major shortcomings that we're suffering under at the moment, sir. Okay, I guess I'll just throw a rock at you. Definitely thought that they'd notice us just hanging out here, standing in the middle of the room, but again, too sneaky for our own good. Maybe they were looking kind of straight across or upwards, and we just fell just shy of their line of sight there. Who knows these things? But Embroidered Hat is worth checking out, as long as it has those pluses on it. It is a pretty decent enchantment, as good as our last helmet, but not quite as solid as our new horned Sea Invisible hat, with what, maybe a ruby inset in the headpiece. Gotta take some creative liberties with sprite art to get a little creative with the color schemes and what they're meant to represent. Smoking Morning Star. If we wanted to switch over to maces and flails, that could become a thing. Also, an artifact axe here. Man, it's kind of unfortunate we're not running those. We have so much training already in not just long blades for our current sword, but also short blades, that I'm probably not wanting to throw too much more experience into bringing something up. Axe we could check out at the very least, so that's why I picked it up, because with our deity, because the amount of piety we get, and by extension the rate in which our God-given abilities are coming down on us. The rate at which we get that is determined by the amount of damage we do. So axes are, in general, pretty good for Skaya. You get the cleaving damage, so you're guaranteeing multiple hits on each strike, at the very least. But also not completely obsessed with that idea. At the end of the day, we're pretty solid, I guess, in a longsword build as well. With the longswords, the advantage is that they have the riposte ability, so as a pretty high evasion character, which Hal is, we're able to dodge attacks and get extra stabs in even when it's not the action that we took that turn, so I don't know how all these things weigh out exactly. I just know that every once in a while when I see an axe, I get the urge to switch over. Also, we seem to be super lucky at the start of today's run, because this kind of setup is the best way to deal with priest enemies, because this buddy is going to be smiting us from afar if we had them in sight range behind the other enemies. So you always want these little zigzag corridors to get the perfect, only a couple squares can see you, and you're probably going to get through the fight without taking too many superfluous smites. There we go, even knocking out the buddy here. Okay, a little bit scarier. Geez, I'm walking around a bit too much there. Probably should be committing a bit more to the fight. Sometimes when you mix up the auto fight command and directional keys, it can kind of mess you up as your character bounces around back and forth in unintentional ways, especially when it's combined with all these wizard elves who can blink around the map. That's why you can never be too tab heavy in elf, in my experience, just because every once in a while an elf will keep blinking away from you, and if you're just holding down the auto fight key, you might find yourself in a situation where you're running headfirst into a vault full of much scarier enemies. But we'll try our very best to avoid that, of course. Let's put in some manual steps there just to make it past. Not too worried about that sword being in the back. Oh gosh, let's not ignore that. Didn't even notice that this dropped off of that enemy. We found the Ring of the Hair. So this is an unrandart, one of the non-random artifacts that we can find in the game. And evasion +8 could be pretty snazzy on this buddy. Again, would mean a lot more ripostes, a lot less just taking damage whatsoever. I mean, it's not a nice defensive skill to completely hinge your entire run on, just because you are always rolling the dice, and in the same way that you might take no damage, you might just only take damage turn after turn on that 5% chance if you're really unfortunate. But does hit pretty on brand with our halfling buddy. So what would I want to drop here? I guess we can use our Scroll of Identify on this axe, see if it is worth doing a complete rehaul, a complete switch around. And probably not. +9 War Axe, not too bad, not the best type of axe in the game, but not bad either. Especially, for a halfling, I think it might be the best axe we can hold one-handed. I think one of the heavier axes, either this one or the broad axe, is two-handed for a poor little halfling, but unfortunately, in general, I don't think we'll be switching out. I guess not necessarily unfortunate inherently either, so that might be a bit of a misrepresentation of the situation here. Because at the end of the day, we're pretty happy with our sword. Even though it occasionally enrages us, just might be the death of us in that regard. Still having a whole lot of fun with it at the very least. Here we go, some liches here showing up. Never a fun sight, especially this stage in the game. This is kind of what we were hoping to avoid by not going to depths, that style of enemy, stage of enemy. But I think, invocations had a cap on at 10. Good thing I happened to just pop in here, otherwise who knows how long it might have been before I noticed that. But I think I will Condenser Vein. Unfortunately, Poison Clouds is probably the worst thing we could get here. Does not do anything to these undead enemies whatsoever. So I might want to back up just a little bit. At least the elves will be taken slightly out of the running by the poison here, and in fact maybe we'll switch over to fighting. Ooh. And now is a bad time to rage, my friend. So I'm going to run over to the stairs. I think we explored all of the upstairs. We can even do a quick check. If I shift X, left caret to find the closest stairs, then use the square brackets. We're able to pop up here real quick just to take a peek. It looks like we have 3 downstairs. No hidden sections that we might unexpectedly pop into. Maybe next to those dragons, worst case scenario. Let's see how it goes. Yeah, not quite that unlucky today. That'd be a pretty nasty thing. Almost would have to think it's intentional with the odds it would take to hit that small of a target. But that gives us a little bit more leeway here, a bit of freedom. I am a little more concerned about liches roaming around the level than I was about elves. Even though some of the same advantages apply, where if we're able to fight those liches one-on-one, it's a better situation. I think that's not even debatable on that end, but still gonna be a bit scary each and every time. And there they are. Let's switch over to the fire sling and make sure we switch over to using our actual sling bullets here as well, but I think we might as well grab their attention with that. Let's bring them down our ways here, and oh yeah, Zelt's blade is a holy weapon. Oh right, I'm kind of well suited to fight these buddies for once in my life. I almost never have a holy weapon. I'm so scared of the liches, which still should be scared of the liches, brain. Let's not convince ourselves completely otherwise. But it does become a lot nicer to deal with them now that I've remembered the brand on our weapon here, the fact that we have an advantage against undead constructs. So with this new bravery, let's head in and get ourselves killed, shall we? In fact, let's not chase down too much there. Surprised we're running into a decent selection of opponents here, considering the fact that this is not... Don't notice me. Oh, notice me. I'm slow right now, so this is a little scary for sure. But again, with the Holy Sword, maybe we can go through. Not much option at this stage. Okay, able to get through one lich, even in our slowed state. Very scary. Very scary indeed. Instead of just waiting here, I probably should have retreated into a corner or something, but all is well that ends well here. Don't even totally remember what I was talking about because of the fright that I gained upon running into that buddy, but I think just along the lines of this seeming very much like the end floor of Elf instead of just the second one. Normally the scariest thing I would find here is the Hall of Blades, and I wouldn't even have to worry about it because I'd just ignore it and walk on by. But we also at some point picked up this artifact ring, another resistance to negative, MP +9. Probably not going to help us out here. We have so much positive energy in our lives right now. It's a pretty good day for that. So we'll drop the resistance negativity there. Happy in that regard. Just keep her going. We did find another evocable item there in the lightning rod, so that is another payoff for the skill points that we've invested that direction, or the experience, as it were. Excuse me, sir. You could walk this way. Gosh darn it. Can I get to you in time? As long as we get a few slashes in? Perfect. Every time you get a kill, I think it adds a little bit of time to your berserk. It might even be causing damage. I do know the flip side of that for sure not dealing damage will cause you to lose your rage pretty quickly. So I guess in that way, it does almost by definition extend the duration, right? If it prevents it from expiring early, that's essentially the same thing, at least on a mechanical level there. But regardless, we managed to hold on to our rage till the very end of the fight, which is very fortunate for little Hal here. Let's keep her going. Also going, yeah, pretty solidly here in Elf. Not too sketchy all in all. Oh wow, everyone just dying at once there because I see, we hit the pain bond stage of our piety with Uskaya here, which caused all those hits to transfer over. Pretty sweet. does give me some interest in trying some silly shenanigans with fighting entire end chambers of people and whatnot, if just to see what kind of shenanigans we could pull off in that regard. But at the end of the day, probably not worth it. Probably just play it safe here. In fact, that's what we did there, making sure to pop upstairs, let the slowness from our rage expire before come back down to deal with the... Oh, we just had confirmation of... That was the one I forgot earlier. It is Elf Knight. Okay, so... Brain got there, but I didn't have the confidence to stick by my decisions, so unfortunately, I don't really get to bask in the glory of being right too much there. Okie dokie. Keep coming out one at a time. That's not too shabby for us. This might not be the end chamber. This might just be a really big room, but it definitely was suspiciously big. So I've been very cautious, expecting an entire horde of high priests and demonologists to be somewhere hidden back here. But I guess not. That time is yet to come. Let's continue to throw rocks and attract buddies away. Seems to be working out pretty well for us this time, and I do remember that being pointed out to us last session as something that I do forget is a very valid, solid strategy. Also, gosh darn it, Earth Elementalists are a pain in the butt. Getting rid of all of our sweet, sweet walls that we were hoping to hide behind. We have managed to drag some of them out here, so we could think of doing Condenser Vein. It's kind of a waste because so many of these enemies are just summons, so probably running away and resetting this fight is the better way to go about this. How long of a journey do we have? Not too bad. The main thing of note there being that they'll constantly do this kind of baloney to us. But we're dodging Earth Elementals left and right so far. See how well that keeps up, and if they give us an opportunity to attack they themselves, we'll definitely do so. Start blitzing through during the paralysis portion of that, and there we go. Wow, Ruskaya is extremely satisfying, especially now that this invocation is getting up there. I think we're going to be pulling some ridiculous stunts while dancing our way through the enemies here. Because at the end of the day, while we are gaining PD for dealing damage, the main part is that we're just keeping up the rhythm of the dance bit. Jeez, stumbling over that one. But we're just keeping up the rhythm of the dance, keeping the steady flow going throughout the fight. And that is all that Uskaya is looking for in life, is a good beat and some good sweet moves on the floor here. Let's run away, make sure we rest up. I wondered if you could have conga'd through those Ellies. That's actually a pretty solid point. In order to get to summoners in general in the future, we should think about using our line pass ability in order to get through all those pesky buddies, which is definitely a good one. My main plan there was to just get to a stairs and make my way up, and then happen to just stumble my way into victory over them all. I mean, I'll take it, but wasn't quite according to the original plan or anything for sure. Let's pull some buddies back in here again. Reducing how many enemies can even see us at once at any time is useful. And there are a bunch of enemies that have potential smite abilities or targeted things like that. Let's see. Actually, we saw another enemy back here, didn't we? I was gonna start heading in to see whose attention we could pull out, throw a couple stones and whatnot, but was there not like a demonologist or something back here? I'm gonna do some clicking. High Priest. There we go. That's what we were missing. This time we're gonna try and take advantage of the fact that they never notice us to close the gap against the caster here, and it worked out pretty awesomely.